The space station floated quietly in the darkness between stars. Its name was Zenith 7, and it was home to hundreds of different alien species. They came from all corners of the galaxy to meet, trade, and make deals. The station was massive, with gleaming metal walls and bright lights that never turned off. Ships of all shapes and sizes docked at its ports every day. Karen Bishop walked through the long corridors of the station, her boots making soft sounds on the polished floor. She was 32 years old with dark brown hair tied back in a simple ponytail. She wore the standard uniform of Earth's diplomatic service, a dark blue suit with small golden pins on the collar. In her arms she carried a small animal that looked like a large weasel with thick, dark fur and white stripes on its face. The animal was called Ripley, and she was a honey badger from Earth. Ripley's small black eyes watched everything around them with sharp attention. Her body was compact and muscular, built low to the ground. She weighed only 25 pounds, but every ounce was solid muscle and bone. Karen had brought her from Earth 6 months ago, registering her as an emotional support animal. Karen had been a xenobiologist before becoming a diplomat. She studied alien life forms and how they lived. That background made her different from other human diplomats. She understood that strength came in many forms, not just size and weapons. That was why she chose a honey badger as her companion. As Karen walked, other beings stepped aside to let her pass. There were tall, thin creatures with blue skin and too many fingers. There were short, round beings covered in orange fur. Some walked on 2 legs, others on 4 or 6. Some floated in the air using technology Karen didn't fully understand. The galaxy was full of strange and wonderful life. Karen reached the main diplomatic hall and stopped at the entrance. She took a deep breath. This meeting was important. Earth needed trade agreements with the Vrex Confederacy. The Vrex controlled shipping routes through 3 star systems. Without their cooperation, human colonies would struggle to get supplies and technology. Before entering, Karen met with Alan Foster, the human station commander. He was an older man with gray hair and tired eyes. He had been dealing with the Vrex for weeks before Karen arrived. "They're not going to make this easy," Alan said, shaking his head. "The Vrex think humans are weak. They've been mocking our delegation since they arrived. They call us soft. They say we're too emotional, too attached to comfort." Karen nodded. She had read the reports. The Vrex were warriors, proud and fierce. They came from a hot planet with dangerous predators and harsh conditions. Their entire culture celebrated strength and combat ability. To them, diplomacy was just another form of battle. "What about their leader?" Karen asked. "Warlord Kazrik," Alan said grimly. "He's their chief negotiator, but negotiator is the wrong word. He's more like a bully. Tall, covered in scars, and convinced that humans are prey animals. He laughed when I mentioned our military capabilities." Karen looked down at Ripley, who yawned, showing small, sharp teeth. The honey badger seemed completely unconcerned about the meeting ahead. "Let's go," Karen said. The diplomatic hall was enormous, with a high ceiling and walls made of clear panels that showed the stars outside. In the center was a long table where representatives from different species sat. Karen walked to the human section and took her seat. She placed Ripley on the floor beside her chair. The honey badger sat calmly, her eyes scanning the room. The Vrex delegation sat across from them. There were 5 of them, and they were impressive to look at. Each one stood over 7 feet tall, with bodies covered in thick, overlapping scales that ranged from dark green to almost black. Their heads were elongated, with heavy brow ridges and eyes that glowed faintly yellow. They had clawed hands and powerful tails that curved behind them. They looked like ancient Earth dinosaurs brought to life and given intelligence. Warlord Kazrik sat in the middle. He was the largest of them all, with pale scars crisscrossing his scales. One scar ran from his left eye down to his jaw. He wore armor made of dark metal that covered his chest and shoulders. When he moved, the armor made soft clicking sounds. Kazrik's eyes fixed on Karen immediately. Then they dropped to Ripley. His expression changed, and Karen saw his mouth twist into what might have been a smile. Among the Vrex, showing teeth was usually a sign of aggression or amusement at another's weakness. "What is that?" Kazrik asked, his voice deep and rough. The translation device on the table turned his words into English. "This is Ripley," Karen said calmly. "She's my companion." The Vrex warrior to Kazrik's right, a slightly smaller male named Shrike, made a hissing sound that the translator interpreted as laughter. "A companion? You bring a pet to diplomatic negotiations?" "She provides emotional support," Karen explained. Many humans form bonds with animals. It's part of our culture. More hissing laughter from the Vrex. Kazrik leaned forward, his yellow eyes glinting. Emotional support. This explains much about humans. You need small creatures to make you feel brave enough to face the galaxy. Karen felt her jaw tighten, but she kept her expression neutral. She had expected this. The Vrex respected strength and they saw emotion as weakness, but she wouldn't let them provoke her. Humans have lived alongside animals for thousands of years, Karen said. We've learned that different creatures have different kinds of strength. Not everything is about size and claws. Shrike pointed at Ripley with one clawed finger. That pathetic creature? It looks like food. On our world, it would not survive one day. Our young hatchlings would eat it for sport. Ripley, who had been sitting quietly, turned her head to look at Shrike. She made no sound, but her small body tensed slightly. Karen noticed but said nothing. Other alien delegates were watching now. To Karen's left sat Elder Whisperthought, a representative of the Tenthari. The Tenthari were tall, slender beings with smooth gray skin and large dark eyes that seemed to hold ancient wisdom. Whisperthought observed everything with quiet interest. To Karen's right were the Quillics, a species of traders known throughout the galaxy. They were short, with golden fur and quick, clever hands. They watched the exchange between humans and Vrex with calculating eyes, probably wondering how it might affect their own business deals. Kazrik stood up, his massive frame dominating the room. Let us discuss terms. The Vrex Confederacy will grant humans passage through our territory. In exchange, we require access to 3 of your colony worlds, complete technological databases on your weapon systems, and mining rights to the asteroid fields in the Kepler sector. Karen blinked. Those demands were outrageous. Giving the Vrex access to human colonies and weapons technology would leave Earth vulnerable. The mining rights alone were worth billions. Those terms are unacceptable, Karen said firmly. We're proposing a fair trade agreement, not a surrender. Kazrik's eyes narrowed. You are in no position to refuse. Humans are weak. Your ships are slow. Your colonies are few. You bring pets to important meetings because you need comfort. He said the last word like it was an insult. We bring companions because we value partnership, Karen replied. Something the Vrex might not understand. The tension in the room grew thick. Kazrik took a step toward the human section of the table. His tail swished behind him in a gesture that Karen's research told her was a sign of aggression. Perhaps a demonstration, Kazrik said slowly. He reached down toward Ripley with one clawed hand. Let me see this soft little pet of yours. Let me show you what the galaxy thinks of weakness. Karen's hand moved instinctively, but she stopped herself. Ripley didn't move away from Kazrik's approaching hand. Instead, the honey badger's eyes locked onto the Vrex warlord. Her body went very still. In that moment, Karen saw something in Ripley's posture that she recognized from her years studying Earth predators. It was the stance of an animal that wasn't afraid, an animal that had faced lions, hyenas, and venomous snakes and survived, an animal that evolution had crafted into something that simply did not understand the concept of backing down. Kazrik's hand was inches from Ripley's head when Alan, Foster's voice came over the communication system. Lieutenant Commander Bishop, you have an urgent message from Earth Command. Please report to the communication center immediately. Karen hesitated, then stood up. She picked up Ripley, who relaxed immediately in her arms. The honey badger's eyes never left Kazrik. We'll continue this discussion tomorrow, Karen said. I suggest the Vrex reconsider their demands. Earth is offering fair terms for fair trade. Nothing more, nothing less. As Karen walked out, she heard Shrike's voice behind her. Tomorrow we will show these humans their place. They and their food animals will learn respect. The laughter of the Vrex delegation followed her into the corridor. That night, Karen sat in her quarters on the station, studying reports on her datapad. Ripley was on the floor, eating her dinner of raw meat and vegetables. The honey badger ate with single-minded focus, crunching through bones with powerful jaws. Karen thought about the way Kazrik had looked at Ripley. The contempt, the assumption that small meant weak. It was the same mistake people had made about honey badgers for centuries. They saw a small animal and assumed it was harmless, but Karen knew better. She had studied honey badgers extensively before choosing Ripley as her companion. She knew about their legendary. 3 days passed and the negotiations grew worse. Each meeting ended with the Vrex making impossible demands and the humans refusing them. Kazric became more aggressive with every session, his voice growing louder, his gestures more threatening. The other Vrex warriors followed his lead, turning each diplomatic discussion into a battle of wills. On the fourth morning, Karen received a visitor. Lieutenant Jake Martinez knocked on her door early, before the station's artificial sunrise. He was the head of security for the human section, a stocky man with dark hair and a friendly smile. He carried 2 cups of coffee. "Thought you might need this," Jake said, handing her one of the cups. Karen took it gratefully. She hadn't slept well. Ripley was on the floor watching Jake with interest. The honey badger had taken a liking to him during their time on the station. "I had a German shepherd back home," Jake said, looking at Ripley. "Big dog, trained for security work. Best partner I ever had. People don't understand the bond between humans and animals. They think it's just about companionship. But it's more than that. It's trust," Karen nodded. "The Vrex don't see it that way. They think Ripley makes me weak." Jake's expression darkened. "About that, I need to tell you something. My security team has been monitoring the Vrex delegation. They've been making comments about Ripley, jokes about hunting her, gestures that my translation software flags as threatening." Karen set down her coffee cup. "What kind of gestures?" "In Vrex culture, there's something called a challenge ritual. It's a way of proving dominance. One warrior challenges another to combat. The loser must submit to the winner's demands." Jake paused. "I think they're planning to challenge you. Or more specifically, to challenge Ripley." Karen felt her stomach tighten. "They want to fight my companion?" "It would be legal under coalition rules," Jake said. "If properly declared. And it would humiliate Earth. Show that even our pets are no match for Vrex warriors." Before Karen could respond, her communication device beeped. It was a message from Earth Command. Today's negotiation session had been changed to a formal dinner, with all the coalition delegates present. It was meant to be a cultural exchange, a chance for different species to share food and customs. Karen looked at Jake. "I have a feeling this dinner is going to be more than just food." That afternoon, Karen decided to try a different approach. She requested time to give a presentation about Earth's biodiversity. The Coalition Council agreed, curious about the planet that had produced humans. In the main hall, Karen set up a holographic display. Images of Earth's animals appeared in the air, 3-dimensional and lifelike. She showed them lions stalking across the African plains, their golden bodies rippling with muscle. She showed them tigers, massive and striped, capable of bringing down prey twice their size. She showed them grizzly bears standing 10 feet tall and weighing over 1,000 pounds. The Vrex watched with interest. These creatures they understood. Large predators built for killing. This was strength they could respect. "Earth is a world of predators," Karen explained. "Our planet's history is written in the competition between species. For millions of years, creatures fought for survival. Only the strongest, fastest, and most adaptable lived to pass on their traits." She showed them crocodiles, ancient reptiles that had remained unchanged for millions of years because their design was perfect. She showed them eagles diving from the sky at speeds that would tear apart weaker birds. She showed them sharks, wolves, anacondas, and dozens of other apex predators. Kazric stood up. "These are impressive creatures. But where is your little pet among these hunters? That small worm you carry, where does it fit?" The other Vrex hissed with laughter. Even some of the other alien delegates smiled at the question. Karen smiled calmly. She changed the holographic display. Now it showed smaller creatures. Wolverines compact and fierce, capable of driving bears away from food. Shrews, tiny mammals with metabolism so fast they had to eat constantly or die, but possessing venomous bites. Mantis shrimp, small ocean creatures that could punch with the force of a bullet. "Earth taught us a valuable lesson," Karen said. "Size is not the measure of danger. Some of our smallest creatures are our deadliest, and some are simply impossible to intimidate." She brought up an image of a honey badger. It showed the animal attacking a lion 3 times its size, hanging from the big cat's face while the lion roared in pain and confusion. "This is a honey badger," Karen said. "They weigh 20 to 30 pounds, but they have been documented killing snakes, fighting wild dogs, surviving bee stings that would kill larger animals, and yes, driving away lions. They have thick, loose skin that protects them from bites and claws. They have powerful jaws that can crack bone. And they have something else, something that makes them unique among Earth's animals." She paused for effect. "They do not understand fear. When threatened, they do not run. They attack. Always. It is not courage, it is simply how evolution made them. Fear was bred out of their species because fearless honey badgers survived better than cautious ones. The Vrex were silent now, watching the hologram. It showed more footage of honey badgers. One fought off a pack of wild dogs. Another climbed into a beehive, ignoring hundreds of stings to get at the honey inside. A third attacked a cobra, getting bitten multiple times but eventually killing and eating the snake. Elder Whisper Thought, the Tenthari representative, leaned forward with interest. The Tenthari were scholars, always eager to learn new things. Fascinating. An evolutionary adaptation that removes self-preservation instinct. How do they survive to reproduce? They survive because almost nothing can kill them easily, Karen replied. Their skin is too thick for most bites to penetrate deep enough to cause fatal damage. They have resistance to many venoms. They heal quickly from injuries, and their aggression means that predators learn to leave them alone. The cost of fighting a honey badger is too high even if you win, Shrike spoke up, his voice mocking. This is very interesting, human, but videos prove nothing. Your little pet sits there quietly. It does not look fierce. It looks like food. Ripley, who had been lying peacefully at Karen's feet during the presentation, lifted her head, her black eyes fixed on Shrike. She made no sound, but something about her stillness made several delegates shift uncomfortably in their seats. That evening, the formal dinner began. The coalition had prepared foods from dozens of different worlds. There were dishes that glowed, dishes that moved, dishes that smelled like flowers or metal or nothing at all. Each species ate what their biology required. Karen sat at the human table with Alan Foster, Jake Martinez, and several other Earth representatives. Captain Helen Morris had arrived from the Earth ship Defiant, which was docked at the station. She was a tall woman with short blonde hair and the bearing of someone who had commanded warships for 20 years. I don't like this, Helen said quietly. My crew is on standby. If things go wrong, we can extract you in minutes. It won't come to that, Karen said, though she wasn't entirely sure. Also at their table was Dr. Nathan Cole, a xenobiologist who had come with Captain Morris. He was young, barely 30, with nervous hands and sharp eyes. He kept glancing at Ripley, who was eating pieces of meat from a small bowl on the floor. I've been studying your companion, Nathan said to Karen. She's remarkable. Her vital signs are fascinating. Her heart rate barely increases even when exposed to stress. Her pain response is significantly reduced compared to other mammals, and her muscle density is incredible for her size. Halfway through the dinner, Kazrik stood up. The room grew quiet. The Vrex warlord was imposing even by his species' standards. His scarred face looked fierce in the soft lighting of the hall. I have an announcement, Kazrik said. His voice carried across the entire room. The Vrex Confederacy issues a formal challenge to the human delegation. Murmurs rippled through the crowd. A formal challenge was serious business. It was an ancient tradition, recognized by coalition law. Once issued, it could not be ignored. What are the terms? Alan Foster asked, standing up to face Kazrik. A contest of champions, Kazrik replied. Each side chooses a representative. They fight in the arena. The winner's delegation gains the right to set the terms of negotiation. The loser accepts those terms without question. Karen felt her heart sink. This was exactly what Jake had warned her about. And if we refuse? Then you withdraw from negotiations entirely, Kazrik said. Coalition law is clear. A challenged delegation must either accept or leave. There is no third option. Elder Whisper Thought spoke softly. He is correct. The law stands. It is old, from a time when many species resolved disputes through combat. But it remains valid. Karen looked at Alan, then at Helen. They both looked grim. If Earth withdrew, it would be a massive diplomatic failure. Other species would see humans as weak, unwilling to stand up for themselves. But accepting the challenge meant fighting the Vrex, and the Vrex were bred for combat. What do you propose? Karen asked carefully. Kazrik's eyes gleamed. I will be the Vrex champion, and I propose that I fight against your pet. Your emotional support animal. The creature you claim is not weak. The room erupted in noise. Some aliens laughed. Others looked shocked. The Quillix traders immediately began talking among themselves, probably calculating odds and potential bets. The morning came too quickly. Karen spent most of the night preparing, though there was little actual preparation to do. You couldn't train a honey badger for combat any more than you could train a hurricane to blow in a certain direction. Ripley was what she was, a product of millions of years of evolution that had created a perfect fighting machine in a small package. Karen sent her acceptance to the Coalition Council at dawn. The challenge was official. The fight would take place that afternoon in Zenith 7's combat arena, a circular space designed for exactly these kinds of contests. The arena could adjust its environment to suit different species, creating everything from water-filled zones to extreme heat or cold. Nathan spent the morning running scans on Ripley, checking her health. The honey badger submitted to the examination with patience, though Karen could tell she was getting irritated by all the attention. "She's in perfect condition," Nathan reported. "Heart rate is steady. No signs of stress. Her muscle tone is excellent." He paused. "I've been studying Vrex physiology too. Their scales are tough but not impenetrable. There are gaps at the joints and their underbelly is less protected. If Ripley can get underneath Kazric, she might have a chance." "This is insane," Jake said for the 10th time. "We're risking everything on an animal fight. What if Ripley gets hurt? What if she dies?" Karen looked at her companion. Ripley was grooming herself, completely calm. "She's not scared, Jake, and I've seen what honey badgers can do. They don't lose fights because they don't know how to give up. That's their secret weapon." Lisa Grant arrived with important news. "I've been researching Coalition Challenge law. There's something interesting. The rules say any champion can represent either side, as long as they're affiliated with the challenging parties. That means Ripley can legally be your champion." "We knew that," Helen said. "Yes, but here's the part the Vrex might not have considered. There are no rules about size, weight, or species. The challenge is valid no matter who fights, and once accepted, both parties are bound by honor to see it through." Lisa smiled grimly. "Kazric can't back out now without losing face." The combat arena filled up quickly. Word had spread throughout the station about the challenge. Aliens from dozens of species came to watch. Some came out of curiosity. Others came to witness what they expected to be a humiliating defeat for Earth. The Quillix traders were taking bets, and the odds were heavily against Ripley. 50-1 some bookmakers were offering. The arena itself was impressive. It was a perfect circle, about 100 feet across with walls that rose 30 feet high. The floor was covered in a material that looked like sand but felt more solid. Above, a transparent dome allowed spectators to watch from all angles. Thousands of seats surrounded the arena, and they were nearly full. Karen entered through the human delegation's gate, carrying Ripley in her arms. Jake, Helen, Nathan, Lisa, and Alan walked with her. They took their seats in a special section reserved for the participants. The Vrex delegation sat opposite them. Kazric was not there yet. Shrike and the other Vrex warriors looked excited, their tails swishing in anticipation of victory. Elder Whisper Thought sat in the neutral section, along with other Coalition Council members. The Tenthari scholar looked thoughtful, not excited. Something in the elder's posture suggested concern, though Karen couldn't read the alien's expressions well enough to be sure. "Did you study last night?" Karen heard one Quillix ask another. "Study what?" "The human's animal. I looked up information about honey badgers after the challenge was announced." The first Quillix sounded nervous. "These creatures, they are not normal. They fight things that should kill them. They eat poison and survive. They never run away." "Doesn't matter," the second Quillix replied. "Look at the size difference. Kazric will crush it in seconds." But the first Quillix didn't look convinced. A deep horn sounded, announcing the start of the ceremony. The arena lights brightened. A voice spoke through the station's communication system, translated into hundreds of languages. "By ancient tradition and coalition law, we gathered to witness a challenge of champions. The Vrex Confederacy challenges the delegation of Earth. The terms are set. The contest is binding. May honor guide both warriors." The Vrex entrance gate opened. Kazric stepped out and the crowd made sounds of approval. He wore full ceremonial armor, dark metal that covered his chest, shoulders, and arms. His tail was wrapped in protective bands. He carried no weapons as the rules required. This would be a test of natural strength and skill. Kazric walked to the center of the arena. He removed his armor piece by piece, placing each item carefully on the ground. This was part of Vrex tradition, showing respect for worthy opponents by fighting without artificial protection. When he was done, he stood in just a simple cloth covering his lower body. His scales gleamed under the lights, dark green and overlapping like natural armor. His muscles rippled with each movement. The scars on his face and body told the story of countless battles survived. He was magnificent and terrifying, a warrior in his prime. The crowd cheered. The Vrex delegation roared their approval. Even neutral observers seemed impressed by Kazrik's presence. Then the horn sounded again. The human gate opened. Karen walked out carrying Ripley. The contrast was shocking. Kazrik stood 7 feet tall and weighed over 300 pounds. Ripley was barely 2 feet long and weighed 25 pounds. She looked tiny in Karen's arms, almost delicate. The crowd's reaction was immediate. Laughter rippled through the stands. Some aliens pointed and made gestures of disbelief. The Quillix traders looked at each other and nodded, satisfied that their bets on Kazrik were safe. Only a few beings didn't laugh. Elder Whisperthought sat very still, watching intently. The first Quillix trader, the one who had studied honey badgers, gripped the seat nervously. And Alan Foster, watching from the human section, looked like he might be sick. Karen walked to the center of the arena, stopping about 10 feet from Kazrik. She knelt down and set Ripley on the ground. The honey badger stood calmly, her small body solid and low, her black eyes fixed on Kazrik with absolute focus. Karen leaned close to Ripley and whispered, "Show them what Earth made you to be." Then she stood and walked back to the human section. Her heart was pounding, but her face remained calm. She had to trust in evolution, in the millions of years that had shaped honey badgers into what they were. Kazrik looked down at Ripley. He made a sound that the translator turned into laughter. "This is the great champion of Earth? This tiny creature?" He raised his voice so the whole arena could hear. "Today the Vrex prove that humans are weak, that they bring pets to battles, that they deserve no respect in this galaxy." The Vrex delegation cheered. Shrike led them in a war chant, beating his chest with his fists. Ripley didn't move. She just watched Kazrik with those cold black eyes. The horn sounded a third time. The challenge had officially begun. Kazrik made the first move. He lunged forward, both hands reaching to grab Ripley. It was meant to be quick, a simple grab that would crush the small animal and end the fight in seconds. But Ripley was no longer there. She dodged to the side with shocking speed, her compact body moving like liquid. Kazrik's hands closed on empty air. The crowd gasped. That was unexpected. Kazrik turned, his yellow eyes narrowing. He was fast for his size, but Ripley was faster. She circled around him, staying low to the ground. Her movements were deliberate, calculated. She was assessing her opponent, looking for weaknesses. Kazrik attacked again, this time with more aggression. He tried to stomp on Ripley with his massive foot. The honey badger rolled away, and the Vrex warrior's foot slammed into the arena floor with a boom that echoed through the space. "She's too fast," Nathan whispered from the human section. "He can't pin her down." Kazrik was growing frustrated. He had expected an easy victory, something he could accomplish in seconds. But this tiny creature kept evading him, moving with a speed and agility that his larger body couldn't match. Then Ripley attacked. She darted forward and went low, targeting Kazrik's ankle. Her teeth found the gap between his scales, the soft connective tissue that even Vrex armor couldn't fully protect. She bit down with all her strength. Kazrik roared. It was a sound of pain and shock. No creature this small had ever hurt him before. He tried to shake his leg, but Ripley's jaws were locked. She held on with incredible strength, her teeth penetrating deep into the muscle. The crowd went silent. This wasn't supposed to happen. The tiny earth animal was hurting the mighty Vrex warlord. Kazrik reached down and managed to grab Ripley. He pulled her off his leg, lifting her into the air. Blood dripped from his ankle. He held the honey badger up, planning to throw her against the arena wall, but Ripley twisted in his grip. Her flexible spine allowed her to turn almost completely around. She bit into Kazrik's hand, her teeth finding the gap between the scales on his palm. Kazrik dropped her with another roar of pain. Ripley hit the ground and immediately attacked again, this time going for his other leg. She was relentless, giving him no time to recover or plan. The Vrex warrior tried to stomp on her again, but she dodged. He tried to kick her, but she was already moving to his side. Every time he attempted to grab her, she either evaded or bit him before he could secure a grip. "This is incredible," Jake said, his voice filled with amazement. "She's actually fighting." The arena remained silent for 3 full seconds after Kazrik's roar of submission. 3 seconds that felt like an eternity. Then the silence broke, the crowd erupted. Some aliens cheered. Others made sounds of shock and disbelief. The Quillix traders were frantically talking to each other, probably calculating how much money they had just lost. In the wreck section, the warriors sat frozen, unable to process what they had just witnessed. Ripley released Kazrick's throat and dropped to the ground. She backed away from the Vrex warlord but remained alert, her eyes never leaving him. Blood matted her fur from the cut on her shoulder, but she showed no sign of pain or weakness. She stood ready to fight again if needed. Kazrick fell to his knees. Blood dripped from the wounds on his legs, hands, and throat. None were deep enough to be fatal, but together they painted a clear picture. He had been beaten, not by superior size or strength, but by something he hadn't expected. Pure, relentless aggression combined with speed and intelligence. Medical teams rushed into the arena from both sides. The human medics went to Ripley first. Nathan was with them, running his scanner over the honey badger's body. The shoulder cut is superficial, Nathan reported quickly. Minor bruising from being thrown. Nothing broken. She's fine. He sounded amazed. Karen knelt down and picked up Ripley. The honey badger immediately relaxed in her arms, the fight instinct switching off as quickly as it had activated. She licked Karen's hand gently, then closed her eyes, suddenly looking like nothing more than a tired pet. The Vrex medical team was working on Kazrick. They lifted him onto a medical platform that floated a few feet off the ground. The warlord's eyes were open, staring at nothing. He was conscious but seemed to be in shock. As they carried him past the human section, Kazrick's eyes found Karen. For a moment, their gazes met. Karen saw something new in his expression. Not hatred or anger, but something else. Recognition, perhaps. Respect. The Coalition Council member who served as referee stood up. His voice echoed through the arena. The challenge is complete. Victory goes to Earth. By law and honor, the Vrex Confederacy must accept terms proposed by the human delegation. This decision is final and binding. The human section erupted in celebration. Jake was hugging Alan. Helen had her hand over her mouth, tears in her eyes. Lisa was shaking her head in disbelief, a huge smile on her face. Karen just held Ripley close, feeling the honey badger's steady heartbeat against her chest. "Good girl," she whispered. "You did what you were born to do." Over the next few hours, the station buzzed with activity. The arena footage was being shared across the entire Coalition network. Billions of beings across hundreds of worlds were watching a 25-pound Earth animal defeat a 300-pound Vrex warrior. The story was spreading faster than light through quantum communication networks. Karen took Ripley back to their quarters. She cleaned and bandaged the shoulder wound, which was already beginning to heal. Honey badgers had remarkable healing abilities, another evolutionary advantage. Ripley ate a large meal and then curled up on the couch, falling asleep almost immediately. Karen sat watching her companion sleep. She thought about everything that had happened. The mockery, the challenge, the fight. She thought about how the Vrex had seen Ripley as weak simply because she was small. They had made the oldest mistake in the book, judging a threat by its size rather than its capabilities. A message came through on her communication device. It was from Elder Whisperthought, requesting a private meeting. Karen accepted. They met in one of the station's observation lounges, a quiet room with windows showing the stars. The Tenthari scholar was already there, standing by the window with hands clasped behind their back. "Lieutenant Commander Bishop," Whisperthought said. "That was a remarkable demonstration." "Thank you, Elder. I spent last night studying your species," the Tenthari continued. "Both humans and honey badgers. I found something interesting. Your planet, Earth, it is classified in our databases as a garden world. Pleasant climate, abundant resources suitable for colonization." Karen nodded. "That's the standard classification, yes." Whisperthought turned to face her. "But that classification is incorrect. I have reviewed extensive data on Earth's ecosystem. Your planet is what we call a competitive ecosystem world. Some species call them death worlds, though that term is dramatic. These are planets where life evolved under constant pressure, where predators are everywhere, where even plants can kill, where survival requires constant adaptation." "I suppose that's accurate," Karen admitted. "Earth can be dangerous if you don't know what you're doing." "More than dangerous," Whisperthought said. "I studied your predators. Lions that hunt in coordinated packs, crocodiles that have remained unchanged for millions of years because their design is perfect, bears that can smell food from miles away, sharks with senses so acute they can detect electrical fields, snakes with venom that can kill in minutes, spiders, insects, even some plants that are deadly. The Tenthari paused. And humans. Persistence hunters who can track prey for days without stopping. Social creatures who work together to bring down animals much larger and stronger than themselves. Tool users who turn sticks and stones into weapons. You survived on a planet that tried to kill you at every turn, and you thrived. We learned to adapt, Karen said simply. You learned more than that. You learned to form partnerships with other species. You domesticated wolves into dogs. You kept cats despite their independence. You bonded with horses, birds, even creatures like honey badgers. Whisper Thought's large eyes reflected the starlight. The Vrek saw this as weakness. They were wrong. It is perhaps the greatest strength a species can have, the ability to see value in others, even those who seem different or dangerous. Karen felt a warmth in her chest. Will you share this with the Coalition Council? I already have, Whisper Thought said. We are meeting tomorrow to discuss reclassifying Earth, and to discuss what today's events mean for humanity's place in the Coalition. The next day, the Coalition Council chamber was filled to capacity. Representatives from every member species were present. The Council's decision would affect not just Earth's trade agreements with the Vreks, but humanity's standing throughout the galaxy. Karen sat in the human section, Ripley beside her. The honey badger was calm, her shoulder wound healing nicely. She seemed completely unaware that she had become the most famous animal in the galaxy. Elder Whisper Thought presented first. The Tenthari displayed holographic data about Earth's ecosystem, showing the incredible diversity and danger of the planet's life forms. The presentation included footage of various predators, from the tiny but deadly poison dart frog to the massive and powerful elephant. We have categorized Earth incorrectly, Whisper Thought explained. This is not a peaceful garden world. This is a competitive ecosystem world where life has evolved under constant pressure. The creatures of Earth, including humans, have developed traits that other species might consider excessive or unnecessary. High pain tolerance, aggressive defense mechanisms, complex social behaviors, and remarkable adaptability. A Quillix council member spoke up. If their companions fight like what we witnessed yesterday, what of their warriors? If a pet can defeat our strongest fighters, what can their soldiers do? Murmurs of agreement rippled through the chamber. Karen realized that the fight had changed more than just the negotiations with the Vreks. It had changed how every species in the Coalition viewed humanity. Captain Helen Morris stood to speak. Humanity does not seek conflict. We came to the stars looking for friends, for partners, for knowledge. But we will not be pushed around or treated as weak. We survived on a world that tested us every day. We learned to be strong not through aggression, but through cooperation and determination. The Council voted. Earth would be reclassified as a competitive ecosystem world. This came with benefits, including better trade terms, more respect in diplomatic negotiations, and access to military alliances that had previously been closed to younger species. But the biggest surprise came from the Vreks delegation. Kazrik entered the chamber. He walked slowly, still healing from his wounds. Bandages covered his legs and arms, but he held his head high, his posture proud despite his defeat. He approached the human section and stopped in front of Karen. For a long moment, he just looked at her. Then he spoke. I called your companion weak, Kazrik said. His voice was rough but sincere. I called it a pet, a creature of no value. I was a fool. That animal has the heart of a true warrior. It fought with honor and courage. It showed mercy when it could have killed me. He looked down at Ripley, who gazed back at him calmly. I have fought in 100 battles. I have defeated warriors from a dozen species. But I have never faced an opponent like this. So small yet so fierce. So gentle with its handler yet so deadly in combat. Kazrik straightened up. The Virex Confederacy withdraws all previous demands. We propose new terms. A mutual defense pact between our species, fair trade agreements based on equal partnership, and an exchange of cultural knowledge so that we may learn from each other. The chamber erupted in surprise. This was far beyond what Earth had hoped to achieve. A defense pact with the Virex would make humanity a major power in the region. Equal trade terms would help human colonies. 2 days after the challenge, Kazrik requested a private meeting with Karen. She arrived at the designated room to find the Vrex warlord sitting alone, his wounds bandaged but healing rapidly. Vrex physiology allowed for quick recovery, another trait of a warrior species. Karen brought Ripley with her. The honey badger had become inseparable from these meetings. Her presence had become a symbol, a reminder of what had happened in the arena. Kazrik stood when they entered, a gesture of respect that surprised Karen. In Vrex culture, standing for another was reserved for equals or superiors. Lieutenant Commander Bishop, Kazrik said, "Thank you for coming." "Ambassador Bishop now," Karen replied with a slight smile. "Earth promoted me yesterday." Kazrik's eyes flickered with something that might have been approval. "They chose wisely. You handled this situation with skill and courage." They sat across from each other. Ripley settled on the floor between them, grooming herself and appearing completely relaxed. Kazrik watched her for a moment, his expression thoughtful. "I have a confession," Kazrik said. "The challenge was not spontaneous. We planned it from the beginning. The Vrex High Command instructed me to test humanity, to push you, to see if you would break under pressure." Karen had suspected as much. "And what was your assessment?" "We expected you to withdraw," Kazrik admitted. "We thought humans would choose safety over honor, that you would run from a fight you couldn't win." He paused. "We were wrong. You accepted the challenge knowing you might lose everything. That takes courage. Real courage, not the false bravado we often see in younger species." "And Ripley?" Karen asked. Kazrik's scarred face twisted into what might have been a smile. "Your companion taught me more than courage. She taught me humility. I have fought in wars across 3 star systems. I have defeated champions from species renowned for their combat prowess. I thought I understood strength." He looked at Ripley. "Then this creature barely larger than my hand defeated me. Not through luck or trickery, but through pure, relentless will. Earth has many creatures like her," Karen said. "We learned long ago that size and strength are not the same thing. A mosquito can kill an elephant through disease. A tiny spider can take down prey 100 times its size. Survival isn't about being the biggest. It's about being the most adaptable, the most determined, the most willing to do what's necessary." Kazrik nodded slowly. "This is why the Vrex High Command now wishes to form a true alliance with Earth. Not because we pity you or wish to control you, but because we recognize strength when we see it. And we prefer strong allies to weak enemies." They spent the next 2 hours discussing the details of the new alliance. The Vrex would provide military support and access to their extensive shipping networks. Earth would share technological innovations and cultural knowledge. It was a fair deal, built on mutual respect rather than domination. As the meeting ended, Kazrik had one more request. "I would like to visit Earth someday, to see where creatures like your companion come from, to understand the world that created both honey badgers and humans." Karen smiled. "You're welcome anytime. Though I should warn you, Earth can be overwhelming for first-time visitors. We have a lot of animals that might surprise you." "I look forward to it," Kazrik said, and Karen believed he meant it. Word of the arena fight and its outcome spread through Coalition space at an incredible speed. Within a week, the footage had been viewed over 10 billion times. News networks across hundreds of worlds analyzed the fight, discussing everything from Ripley's fighting technique to Earth's evolutionary history. Karen started receiving messages from other species. Some wanted to establish trade agreements, others wanted cultural exchanges. A few wanted to hire Earth animals for security or companionship. She had to politely decline the last requests, explaining that Earth's animals were not commodities to be sold. But the most interesting development came from the Coalition Council itself. They announced new protocols for evaluating member species. No longer would planets be classified simply by their environment. Now the Council would consider evolutionary pressures, the development of defensive adaptations, and the psychological resilience of native species. Elder Whisper Thought led a presentation on what they called high-pressure ecosystem worlds. These were planets like Earth, where life had evolved under constant threat, creating species with remarkable survival abilities. "We have been judging species by the wrong criteria," Whisper Thought explained to the Council. "We looked at technology, at military might, at diplomatic history. We did not consider the fundamental nature of a species and what their homeworld taught them about survival." The Tenthari presented data on Earth's biodiversity. They showed how even Earth's herbivores had developed impressive defenses. Elephants with their size and intelligence, rhinos with their armor and aggression, buffalo that fought back against predators in coordinated groups, and the predators, lions, tigers, bears, wolves, sharks, crocodiles, eagles, snakes, and hundreds more. Earth had more apex predators per square mile, than most planets in the Coalition had in their entire biospheres. This is significant, a Quilix Council member noted. If Earth's companions are this formidable, what of their soldiers? Their special forces? Their military elite? The question hung in the air. No one had a good answer, but everyone was thinking about it. 3 weeks after the challenge, Karen was officially appointed to the Coalition War Council. She was the youngest member and the first human to hold the position. The ceremony was grand, attended by representatives from every major species in the Coalition. Karen stood before the assembled delegates and gave a speech. She had worked on it for days, wanting to strike the right tone. Earth came to the stars with hope, she began. We hope to find friends, partners, teachers. We hope to learn from species that had explored the galaxy long before we developed spaceflight. And we have found those things. We have found allies and mentors. We have learned so much. She paused, looking around the chamber. But we also brought something with us. Something that comes from our world. From the billions of years of evolution that shaped life on Earth. We brought the knowledge that survival requires more than just strength or size. It requires adaptability, determination, the willingness to form partnerships even with those who seem different or dangerous. Ripley sat beside her, calm and attentive. Humans learned to coexist with predators. We domesticated wolves even though they could kill us. We kept cats even though they remained independent and wild at heart. We formed bonds with horses, birds, and yes, honey badgers. We learned that partnership is stronger than domination. That respect is earned, not demanded. The chamber was completely silent, every being hanging on her words. That is what Earth offers the Coalition, Karen continued. Not just our technology or our resources. We offer our perspective, the understanding that strength comes in many forms. The courage means facing challenges even when victory seems impossible. That honor matters more than convenience. She reached down and gently stroked Ripley's head. This small creature defeated a warrior 10 times her size because she didn't understand the concept of giving up. That is the gift Earth brings to the stars. Not aggression, not violence, but an absolute refusal to surrender in the face of adversity. The applause started slowly, then built into a roar. Beings from hundreds of worlds stood and showed their respect in their various ways. Some clapped. Others made sounds or gestures unique to their species. The Vrex delegation, led by Kazrik, placed their fists over their hearts in their highest sign of honor. Karen felt tears in her eyes. She had come to Zenith 7 expecting difficult negotiations. She had found something far more important. She had found humanity's place in the galaxy. That evening, Karen stood in her new office overlooking the council chambers. It was larger than her previous quarters, with windows showing the beautiful vista of space. Ships of all designs moved past the station, coming and going on their various missions. Ripley was asleep on a cushion near the desk. The honey badger had become famous across the galaxy, but she remained unchanged. She still ate the same food, played with the same toys, and showed affection to Karen in the same ways. Fame meant nothing to her. She was simply being what she had always been. Alan Foster came to visit, bringing news from Earth. The president wants to give Ripley a medal, he said with a smile. The first animal to receive the Congressional Medal of Honor. Karen laughed. She won't care. She only cares about food and sleep. Maybe, Alan said. But the rest of humanity cares. You and Ripley changed everything. Before the challenge, we were just another young species trying to find our place. Now we're partners with the Vrex. We have a seat on the War Council. Other species are approaching us with respect instead of condescension. He paused. There's more. Earth's colonial office has received over 1,000 requests for partnerships. Species want to work with us, trade with us, learn from us. Some even want to visit Earth to see our wildlife in person. Karen felt a surge of pride. We'll need to be careful about that. Earth's ecosystem is delicate. We can't just let anyone visit. Agreed. But it's a good problem to have. Alan looked out the window. You know, when I first heard about the challenge, I thought it was a... 6 months passed since the arena fight, and the galaxy had changed in ways no one could have predicted. Karen and Ripley had become the most recognizable duo in Coalition space. Everywhere they went, beings stopped to watch them pass. Children of various species asked to pet Ripley. Adults requested pictures and autographs. But more importantly, humanity's position in the galaxy had transformed completely. Earth was no longer seen as a weak, young species that needed protection. Instead, humans were viewed as valuable partners, dangerous when threatened but loyal to their allies. The Vrex alliance had proven incredibly beneficial. Vrex shipping lanes now carried Earth goods to distant markets. Vrex military advisors trained with human forces, sharing techniques and learning from each other. And Kazrik had kept his word, visiting Earth to see the world that created honey badgers. His visit had been memorable. Karen accompanied him on a safari in Africa, where they observed lions, elephants, rhinos, and dozens of other species. Kazrik's reaction to seeing these animals in their natural habitat was one of amazed respect. "Your entire planet is an arena," he had said, watching a lion pride hunt a buffalo. "Every creature here must fight to survive. Even the plants have thorns and poisons. This world created warriors of every size and shape." When they visited a honey badger conservation area, Kazrik spent hours observing the animals. He watched them dig for food, fight off jackals, and raid beehives. By the end of the day, he understood why Ripley had been able to defeat him. It wasn't personal. It was simply what honey badgers were designed to do. "We Vrex pride ourselves on being warriors," Kazrik told Karen. "But we chose to be warriors. These creatures had no choice. Your world made them fighters or made them extinct. There is honor in that. A different kind of honor than what we practice, but honor nonetheless." Other changes rippled through Coalition space. A Vrex military academy added Earth animal studies to their curriculum. Young warriors learned about wolverines, which could drive away bears despite being much smaller. They studied shrews, tiny mammals with metabolism so fast they had to eat constantly but with venomous bites. They analyzed cassowaries, flightless birds that could kill with powerful kicks. The lesson was always the same. Size is not the measure of danger. Underestimate an opponent at your own risk. Jake Martinez received a promotion to Chief of Security for the entire human sector of Zenith 7. His experience working with Karen and understanding the value of Earth's animals made him perfect for the role. He advocated for allowing more humans to bring companion animals to the station, arguing that they improved morale and mental health. Soon, the human sections of various coalition stations began filling with Earth animals, dogs of all breeds, from tiny Chihuahuas to massive Great Danes, cats both domestic and slightly wild, ferrets that entertained everyone with their playful antics, even a parrot that learned to mimic several alien languages, creating confusion and laughter wherever it went. Other species began to take notice. The Tenthari requested cultural exchanges focused specifically on human-animal bonds. They wanted to understand how humans had managed to domesticate predators and form partnerships with creatures that could be dangerous. Dr. Nathan Cole became the Coalition's leading expert on Earth ecology. His comprehensive study was published and became required reading for all xenobiologists. Universities across the galaxy invited him to speak. He established the first Coalition research station on Earth, dedicated to studying the planet's biodiversity without disrupting it. The Coalition Council created new protocols for evaluating species and planets. No longer would they judge solely on technology or military strength. Now they considered evolutionary history, adaptive traits, and psychological resilience. Several other species were reclassified as coming from high-pressure ecosystem worlds, and they all received the same benefits Earth had gained. But perhaps the most significant change came in how other species approached humanity. Before the arena fight, diplomatic meetings often involved condescension and dismissive attitudes. Now those same species approached with genuine respect. They listened to human proposals. They took human concerns seriously. They recognized that humanity brought unique perspectives and capabilities to the Coalition. Karen stood in the War Council chamber, presenting Earth's latest security assessment. The chamber was filled with military leaders from the Coalition's most powerful species. A year ago, she would have been the youngest and least experienced person in the room. Now others deferred to her expertise on certain matters. "We've detected unusual energy signatures in the outer territories," Karen explained, displaying holographic data. They could indicate a new species attempting to enter Coalition space, or they could be natural phenomena. Either way, we recommend sending a diplomatic mission first, military forces second. A council member from a species known for aggressive expansion spoke up. "Why waste time with diplomacy? If they're hostile, we should establish military dominance immediately." Before Karen could respond, Kazrik stood. The Vrex warlord had become one of her strongest allies on the council. Because Ambassador Bishop taught us the value of not making assumptions. 6 months ago, I assumed a small creature was harmless. I was wrong, and I paid for that assumption with blood and pride. Perhaps this new species is dangerous. Perhaps not. But we should learn before we act. The council voted to follow Karen's recommendation. It was a small victory, but it represented a larger shift in coalition thinking. Diplomacy first, violence as a last resort. Understanding before judgment. After the meeting, Karen returned to her office. Ripley was there, as always, sleeping on her favorite cushion near the window. The honey badger had adjusted well to life on the station. She had her routines, her favorite spots, her preferred foods. She was content. Karen sat at her desk and found a message from Earth's president. The International Wildlife Federation wanted to honor Ripley at a ceremony next month. They were creating a new conservation program named after her, dedicated to protecting Earth's smaller predators that were often overlooked in favor of larger, more charismatic species. The Ripley Conservation Initiative would focus on honey badgers, wolverines, weasels, and other creatures that played crucial roles in Earth's ecosystems, but received little attention or protection. Karen approved immediately. It seemed fitting that Ripley's legacy would help protect her own species and others like her. She received another message, this one from Captain Helen Morris. The Earthship Defiant had been assigned to explore new territories in partnership with Vrex escort vessels. It was a historic mission, the first joint exploration effort between Earth and the Vrex Confederacy. Helen's message included a request. We'd like to bring Earth animals on the mission. Dogs for security and companionship. Maybe a cat or two for morale. What do you think? Karen smiled as she typed her response. Approved. But make sure they're well-trained and properly cared for. They're ambassadors for Earth just as much as any human on the crew. The idea of Earth animals exploring the galaxy alongside humans felt right. It was how humanity had always done things. Never alone, always in partnership with the creatures they shared their world with. As evening approached, Alan Foster came by for their weekly meeting. They discussed diplomatic developments, security concerns, and upcoming projects. But at the end, Alan had personal news. I'm retiring, he said. Going back to Earth. I've been in space for 15 years and I'm ready to go home. Spend time with my grandchildren. Maybe get a dog, he smiled. Ripley inspired me. I want that kind of companionship again. Karen felt sad to see him go but happy for his future. What kind of dog are you thinking? A rescue. Something that needs a home and someone to care about it. That's what you taught me, Karen. It's not about having the biggest or most impressive animal. It's about the bond you form, the partnership you build. After Alan left, Karen stood at her window, looking out at the endless expanse of space. Ships moved past the station, traveling to destinations she could barely imagine. Some carried goods, others carried passengers, all of them moving through a galaxy that seemed just a little bit smaller, a little bit more connected than it had been a year ago. She thought about everything that had happened since that first diplomatic meeting. The mockery, the challenge, the fight, the victory. But more than that, she thought about what it all meant. Ripley hadn't just defeated Kazric. She had challenged the entire galaxy's assumptions about strength, courage, and value. She had shown beings from hundreds of worlds that size didn't matter. That determination could overcome physical disadvantage. That evolution had created countless forms of power. And in doing so, she had changed humanity's place in the galaxy. Earth was no longer dismissed as weak or insignificant. Humans were respected partners, valued for their unique perspective and capabilities. The galaxy had learned that creatures from Earth, whether human or animal, should never be underestimated. Karen turned from the window and looked at Ripley. The honey badger had woken up and was stretching, her small body extending in a long, leisurely movement. She yawned, showing those sharp teeth that had penetrated Vrex scales. Then she trotted over to Karen and bumped her head against Karen's leg, asking for attention.